So I started my career straight out of high school. So I was 19 years old when I started working at the bank. Did everything: teller, personal banker, private banker, branch manager. Was the CEO of a credit union. And for me, I've always sort of like been a hustler. Like I always knew that I didn't want people to tell me what to do and things of that nature. Like I wanted to be an entrepreneur. But like you said, that security is what kept me in the game as long as I was in the game. But for me, that transition, it is difficult though, right? It is that up and down because I remember, I retired from banking when I was 30 years old.
Keyword,
retired. Right, retired, right? I even threw myself a party, retirement party at 40 Club, right? I was just about to turn 30. And I was making money, right? I was making six figures at the bank, wound up quitting, becoming an entrepreneur. I almost fell on my face though, right? To be honest, right? I almost got to a space where, I wasn't making as much money because I was used to that lifestyle. And so I had to go back into the working world, figure some things out. And then now I was like, all right, now I'm gonna jump back in there. And so partly what worked for me was being able to create that multiple streams of income. And that's why I tell people that whatever you do, make sure that you're not only relying on one source of income, because having multiple streams of income was what allowed me to say, okay, you know what, now I can jump out and be comfortable. But being on the institutional side, it was tough, right? Because, as being a licensed financial advisor, there's certain things that you're highly regulated, right? And so, even when I wrote my first book, Mind Right, Money Right, so my real name is Ash Exantis, right? And the reason why I write under Ash Cash was because back in 2009, when I wanted to write my first book, Mind Right, Money Right, 10 Laws of Financial Freedom, I needed to ask permission from the institution to see whether I could write the book. Because I was a licensed rep with them, it was a conflict of interest, and they wouldn't let me write the book, right? And so asked for forgiveness, not for permission. So I decided, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to write this book under Ash Cash. If they find out, they find out. But I'll be Ash Exantis from 9 to 5, and I'll be Ash Cash, every other time. And that worked for me because I was building both simultaneously to the point where Ash Cash got hot enough where I was able to leave my 9 to 5 and create some income by doing that.
And that's something that I always encourage people to do as well. Is where you don't have to do all at the same time, right? Everything at the same time. So you can still work a regular job while building up your entrepreneurial business. And then when that gets to a point where it can support you, then you take the lead.
Right? Like people, I don't know where this anti 9 to 5 thing come from. Like, stop watching social media. They lying. You know how many people who's out here acting like they independent, and then you bump into them at their 9 to 5, and they, I'm trying to say, like,
what's up, bro?
Right, like, stop listening to them. It's like, it's a lie. Yeah. Like, your job is your investor. Yeah. It is your first investor. You quit your job. So the reason why, so I have a company called Mind Right Money Management. The reason why it's Mind Right Money Management, because it's a mindset first. Money is mindset. Yeah. If you don't have the proper mindset, I don't care if you make $100,000, $1 million, $10 million. If you don't have the proper mindset, you're still going to be broke, right? And what people don't realize is that if you have to struggle, the brain space that it takes for you to be creative, you're not going to be as creative. Your entrepreneurship venture is not going to be as successful as it could be had you had the proper brain space to not have to focus on the basics. So I tell people, listen, keep your 9 to 5. It is your first investor. Yeah. It is investing in your business. It removes you having to think about the basics, where I'm going to live, how I'm going to eat, and then the rest is how you invest your time, period.
The key to that is that you have to be willing to put in overtime.
Oh, absolutely.
When I say overtime, not overtime at your job, overtime as far as to say, okay, I work from 9 to 5, from 6 o'clock to 11 o'clock at night. Not a lot of people are willing to do that.
Right.
That's the thing. And we talk about the social media thing. It's
crazy.
It's like, that's what stops a lot of people, is to say, okay, I can still work a job, but I'm gonna work another job that I'm not gonna get paid for.
Right.
Because you're entrepreneurial, the first year, first 2 years, first 5 years, whatever, you might work the same 9 to 5 on the night end
Yep.
and not get $1 for it.
Yep.
That's a sacrifice that a lot of people's not willing to make. But let me ask you this, because I wanted to all right. So you said that one position in general kind of changed your whole way of thinking, right?
Yeah.
Well, you the CEO of a credit union?
Of a credit union, yep.
In Queensbridge, right?
Queensbridge Projects.
Yeah.
So, all right. So Queensbridge is the largest projects in North America, if anybody's not familiar. Also home to hip hop royalty,
Yes.
Nas,
NAS.
Mobb Deep,
Rest in Peace Project.
yeah,
Ron Artest.
Capone, Ron
Yeah,
Artest,
from there, yeah.
Quamega,
Yeah.
a bunch of people. They ran Queensbridge was in the 90s, late 90s.
MC Shan, don't forget them. We got to
No,
go all
we
the way
can't
back.
forget-
Yeah,
we
We
gotta
can't
go
forget
back.
Shan, but we can't fit. I was just having this debate about like rap, right? And in the 90s, it was like Queens, the borough just was
Nah,
unstoppable.
it was a resurgence. It was a
Unstoppable.
resurgence. out of nowhere.
Unstoppable. And it's like Queensbridge, and specifically, if you think about it, like for one project to have that much talent come
Right.
out of it, it's crazy. But it's 96 buildings.
96 word.
So they had their own credit union in the projects, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So Urban Upbound is a nonprofit that provided services within that area. And so Bishop Taylor, the CEO of the nonprofit, decided that he wanted to open up a credit union to serve those members. And so, we had a mutual friend when I was working at Citibank at the time. We had a mutual friend, and he was like, "Listen, you're the perfect person, right? You grew up in the projects. You're a VP at a bank. You understand our people, but you also understand how to run a branch from P&Ls and all that stuff." And so he tapped me and was like, "Listen, I want you to run this credit union." And so I was 31 at the time. And so at the time, I was one of the youngest CEOs of a federally chartered bank. And that really kind of changed my perspective on just what we need, from a financial education perspective, because a couple of things I realized is that when I was working at Citibank in the same type of environment, right? I was running a $45 million branch right on 144th Street and 7th Avenue in Harlem. Same demographic, public housing. It was, low income. But because we had the capital, we were able to provide the products and services that they needed. Working at the credit union, I realized that, Jay said this, right? He says, "I can't help the poor if I'm one of them."
Yeah.
So I got rich and gave back to me. That's the win-win.
win-win.
I didn't understand that until I became the CEO of a credit union and realized that in order to help them, one, we needed to educate them first, because they were so used to using check cashing places and giving their money away that there was an education part first. But then there was a capital thing as well, right? Meaning that a lot of people were going to the check cashing places, were going to the pawn shops, were taking payday loans, were doing all of those things because they needed access, right? I, as a CEO of a credit union, could not give them access because there's a balance between taking risk as an institution, right? And so let's say, for instance, I had $2 million in deposits. That means, there's a reserve, right? I can't lend up to $2 million. I have to, keep a reserve. And so let's say I can lend $1.2 million. But now I have to look at the risk. Like as a credit union, the people who put their money in own the credit union, right? You're owner of the credit union, but I can't lend $5,000 to somebody who has not demonstrated that they will be able to pay it back, even though I know that they need it and that I can help. And so it made me realize that yes, access to capital is important, is very, very important, but that financial education piece is more important because, again, we've seen people who come from places who they don't have any money. You give them money, they will lose the money. They will go back to square one because they haven't changed their mindset. They haven't, recalibrated. And that's what changed my life. I said, you know what? I have to be on a mission, not only locally, right? So prior to that, I was working in Harlem, I was working downtown, I was working in Queensbridge, but I said on a national level, I want to reach people. And that's why I continue to write books. That's why, I started to reach out and become a national voice for financial education, because our people, most importantly, have been shut out, right? Shut out of this information for so long. And not just like we didn't do it. Like these are, like if you read the book Color of Law, you'll realize that there were government sanctioned laws that shut us out of this, shut us out financially.
Absolutely.
And so now we have to take back control and re-educate people.
It's dope because, like, from an education standpoint, right, and the same thing from the financial world, you're inside the system, right? So you can see that the customers and your clients really don't have knowledge. And it's the same thing that we're kind of doing where I'm in the education system. I know it's not being taught in school, so we have to go out and give the financial education.
Sure.
But one of the things that you said is that you're culturally responsive.
Absolutely.
And that is so powerful because, like I said, culture always changes, right? Down to the name of your company, right? Money Right Management.
Yeah,
like when I heard Money Right, automatically I thought Memphis Bleak.
For sure.
And when I was like, yo, is there something there?
Yeah, no, absolutely, without a doubt. And it's so funny. And this is a testament to why you be your authentic self and
Right.
do not care what people say. I'm gonna tell you a quick story. I wrote my first book in 2009, right? It's going on 10 years. It was called Mind Right, Money Right, based on the Jay-Z and Memphis Bleak song.
Right.
When I wrote the book, though, I did not write the book as if the influence was hip hop, right? Like I tried to, at the time you had the Dave Ramsey, Susie Ormans out there, and people were advising me against using hip hop and money. They were like, yo, it's a serious topic. Do not blend the two. How can you possibly do it? And I listened to them.
Yeah.
And so I said, you know what? Nah, I'm going to write this book. I'm going to do it the way I want to write it, whatever the case may be. Fast forward, right? 8 years later, where I finally was like, nah, I hear the Jay-Z 444 album.
We're hearing it different.
And I'm like, nah, I gotta mix hip hop and finances together. And it became my most successful book. Had I listened 10 years ago and said, you know what, nah, I'm feeling this hip hop and money, I'm gonna mix the two together. But to your point about being culturally responsive, it's that, right? Is that a lot of times, and this is not just financial education, this is a lot of things that we're trying to teach people. We tend to teach people based on our level of understanding, but we don't realize, or we forget that we had to go through a journey to even get here.
Right.
And so as the educator, let's stop trying to reach people from where we are, but let's reach them where they are. And I think that now that we look at hip hop as being the great equalizer where, when I listened to my first Jay-Z track, I was 15 years old, right? And so throughout those years, I've grown, right? People who listen to hip hop have grown. We have homes now. We have kids. We have families. We have some even have grandchildren and are thinking about legacy building.
Like we are the grown up hip hop.
It's like it's Derek Falcon. Derek Falcon, when he said we didn't do neo entrepreneurs, whereas we don't necessarily have to wear a suit if we don't want to.
Right.
We can wear Vapor Max and we can wear T-shirts. That doesn't discredit the information.
Absolutely.
Right? Because it's like, okay, we grew up in the hip hop era.
Yeah.
We grew up playing sports, and it's just what it is, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, as opposed to trying to water it down, be something that we're not, we can deliver the message in a language that the people understand. And that's one thing I like about you, because it's in line. What we do as far as with the podcast is like, it's always easy to be yourself.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I think that's one of my favorite Drake lines. He said that line. He was like, you could be anything you want, even yourself.
Right.
Like, it's brilliant.
Even when AZ, when he said, still do me because it's easy to do. Because it's like, that really is easy. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's hard. It takes a lot of effort to try to be somebody that you're not. But a lot of times people do that every single day in the work world and just life in general. And it never works because you're trying to duplicate somebody else.
Right.
And B, it's just not even comfortable.
Right.
So the message is never going to get delivered because the people that you're trying to be like, they know you're not them.
Right.
And the people who you really are like, they looking at you like, you not even, you talking down to like,
you know what I'm saying? You don't sound like us.
You turned your back on us.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you something because you said something that was very key. You said when you was on the institutional side working in banks, you realized that like wealthy people, like they have a team.
Man.
Right? And we even said, when bringing it back with the lyrics, when Nipsey said, I don't need an ID in my bank. I walk in, I got a team in my bank.
Yeah. Right.
And you was like, that's one of the things that motivates you to just educate people because like we're so far, when I say our community, we're so far behind the 8 ball, we don't even know what's on the other side of the door.
Oh my God.
Like, can you just explain like what's on the other side of the door?
Man, so for 2 years, right, I was a private banker and I manage assets. I had a book of business, 400 mass affluent clients, right? So the term mass affluent just means $250,000 in investable assets, right? So you have to have liquid $250,000 or more to even qualify to have a private banker. And so my richest client was worth $22 million. I was part of a team, though. I wasn't I wasn't the only person that worked on that wealthy person's portfolio. You know, I managed the banks and the mutual funds, and there was somebody who was the mortgage guy. There was somebody who was the banker. There was somebody who worked on the investment banking side. Like, they had a whole team of people who not only worked for them, meaning that this wealthy person didn't have to think about their money. Like, this wealthy person got up and did what they did every single day to keep their wealth. And there were people working around the clock to manage their money, to make sure that their money grows, right? Meaning that from a banking perspective, there were no fees. They weren't charging anything. From an investment perspective, they had someone watching their portfolio. From a mortgage perspective, they had somebody, if rates drop, would. So these were all people working proactively to maintain or build this person's wealth, while us, people in our community, people who don't have access to this team, like, we're trying to figure out how to do stuff day to day. And we got to think about our money. We got to think about how to make the money. We got to think about how to manage the money. And so that's why when they say that term, the rich get richer, is because they have a team. They have things and systems and processes in place that keep them at that level. And so for me, I'm a big Jay fan, so I'm gonna quote Jay all day, right?
You're in the right place,
right? So Jay said, "There's much bigger issues in the world I know, but I first had to take care of the world I know." Yep. And so for me, I'm like, yo, I'm from the projects, B. I'm from you see the Harlem coming out, right? I'm from the projects. I'm from 129th Street and 8th Avenue. Like,
old Harlem, the old Harlem.
Old Harlem,
not the new Harlem?
Not the new Harlem. I'm from old Harlem, right? And so,
look like a spoof.
You know what I mean? So I'm from Old Harlem, so I understand what it's like to be from the bottom, but then I've done well for myself. So I also understand that other side of it, and I'm like, nah, this ain't it. Like, my people need this, right? So there's much bigger issues. I could be doing so many other things, but I first had to take care of the world I know. And I think that, for us, and this is why I appreciate what y'all do as well, is because we're credible messengers, right? Like, you can't, like, I've been to Rikers Island, and I've been in the corporate boardroom, right? Talking the same language, and it's nothing nobody could tell me about this, because I've been on both sides, and I think that's what makes us credible, because we got receipts. And I think that's important, right? Having those receipts, but reaching people at a level that they understand. And hip hop, money, they're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah, it's important, because it's like we said this before. It's like the message is for everybody,
for sure.
But the people who need it and are going to be impacted by it most are going to receive it.
For sure.
You know what I mean? And that's something that we pride ourselves on, right? Because we, like you said, we are the messengers of this, and we have receipts to prove it. But
you know what? It's interesting because
that's great.
It's people say that hip hop is not finance. Hip hop actually is finance. Everything about it is money, right? As far as the lyrics, it's a business, $1 billion business, and it always was about education at its core. Was educating, even if it's not educating you on the right thing, you still getting educated. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's a lot of
because the thing about it is, like, even for me, like, I pride myself on having a very good memory, but one of the things I think keeps my memory so good is I have so much rap lyrics that I remembered, right? And like I said, a lot of the things that I learned from rap, they weren't necessarily positive, but it was still an education, right?
For sure.
So it's like, now if we can teach people using lyrics and music as something that they can relate to culturally, to me, that's a win-win.